If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
America. Okay, guys, welcome back to Grand America Show. Coming at you this week with past guest, friend of the show, Dr. Robert Glover, of course, author of the No More Mr. Nice Guy book, which is a good one, and then got into a bunch of dating stuff and now getting into some masculinity stuff. But it was fun to talk with him, and it turned out we agreed about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was a long time. We had a few years, I think, since we last talked to him. And lots has changed. Lots has changed in all of our lives since then. So yeah, it was interesting to see where he's at. He's putting on, I guess, like a workshop type thing for good men doing better, integration nation, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a good chat.
Integration nation. I mean, any of our longtime listeners will have had. I'm sure we've had him on the show twice. Seems like we could only find once, but I was sure we had him on twice. Maybe I was thinking of 13 questions. Anyway.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Yeah, you're probably right.
He's definitely in the back catalog at least once, maybe twice. Let us know how many times you find him back there, because he's a good guest. All of our interviews with him are a little different. So, of course, if you want to skip our lazy ramblings, you could just go to the timestamp in the show notes, where we will ramble and thank some people for supporting us. Not enough people, but a couple.
You want to do that now?
Seems early.
Okay.
You growing your hair out? What's going on over there?
No, I just haven't done it. I just combing it dry.
Dry comb?
Yeah.
Are you back into hermit mode? Have you settled back into your cave and you're not going to leave until summer?
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. Nice here in the cave. We had the igloo before. Now it's the cave. Now I'm gonna be the cave. I like that. Yeah.
You like that?
I like the cave.
I sometimes I miss the igloo, I guess. I don't want to live in a cave though. I gotta get out.
Yeah.
Gotta get out, gotta get after it. It's spring. Is it cold there?
No, it's beautiful. It's really windy, but it was nice couple days. We got the yard all cleaned up. Not me, but
not you.
Yeah.
Would you just hid in your cave?
Yeah, I was out traveling with you,
rounding up people. Oh yeah. Well, we already talked about all that, didn't we? Did we do that?
Yeah, we
had that.
We had a lead episode. So,
how are you? A week later, you've had a week for it to sell. Exactly a week.
I don't know. It's flown by. Actually, I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm reading an awesome book. I'm looking forward to getting this book out for everybody. The Story of Philosophy. It's really good.
Fantastic.
What's that?
Are you almost done?
No. It's a long one.
No.
Holy
moly! It must be a long one.
Yeah.
Huh. I thought you'd almost be done that for sure. I am getting ready to release this week on the Adult Brain podcast. Good and Evil, Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche and the Prophet. It was quite true.
Right on. Yeah, that's a great book. It was good. It was really interesting. Yeah.
Is it nonfiction?
It's a. I don't know. Actually, it's kind of a nonfiction. It's kind of a fictionalized like advice book,
but not like fiction.
No, it's just it's a story about a bunch of advice on different things, like this prophet that talks about all these parts of life, you know, love and friendships and all. He kind of has like a couple pages to say on each of these topics. It's really popular. It's a popular book, very popular.
Huh. It's short too, like an hour.
Yeah.
Less than an hour. It might be 39 minutes.
Yeah,
I think Self-Reliance was like an hour. So anyway, there's a bunch of new books there in the podcast people can check out. So we keep plowing along, waiting for the clouds. New budget comes out tomorrow.
for Canada.
Yeah, how much more than we have do you think we will spend? Because we were just talking about how Canadian debt the Canadian debt bubble seems like it's about to burst. It's like the third largest in the history of the world. And it's going to be interesting.
So hang on. The third largest in the history. So not just like third largest right now, but like going back, and this is a ratio
of the 43 largest debt crises of
right?
the last 100 years. Ours is the third worst right now.
Come behind.
Every other one has burst with terrible consequences, but not ours yet.
Other ones, who were the top two before us then?
Well, the USA in 2008 was around there, in there somewhere, but they weren't over us. They were close to us. I want to say Greece. Remember when Greece went?
Oh, yeah. When they got
they were less, dude. They were like 260%.
What?
357. Yeah.
Really? And this is, so what is this, a debt to GDP ratio
when
type
Trudeau
thing?
goes around and says this shit about us having the lowest debt in the G7 nation, that's net debt. So he's using all of our like pension money, the entire Canadian pension fund and the entire Quebec pension fund. He's including those against all of our debt to get us ahead of those countries.
Wow. So otherwise, if you use that ratio that you're talking about, which is what, is it debt to GDP or?
Yeah, debt to GDP.
It's that bad, eh? Holy.
We're approaching 400%.
Wow, that's I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
We're about to borrow. Yeah, the budget comes out tomorrow. There's probably several $1 billion more than we've taken in taxes, and now our debt was already our second biggest expense, and now the interest on that is increasing because it wasn't just one loan; it's like a bunch of loans. So this year, 20% or 30% of those loans are going to renew, and it's going to be at a much higher interest rate. So
is that how they're able to just cut the immigration, like you mentioned, by like 900,000 people, all just like that, because the new budget's coming out? Is that what this is about?
No, they could always have done that. I mean, immigration is federally controlled. It's just a matter of how many visas they issue, how many permanent visas, and how many student visas.
Right. What a fascinating time.
So they just had to stop issuing student visas because they were living in C train stations and stuff. There's a bunch of places in Calgary for rent right now. So maybe if they could go to school here and they can pile into these places. But the one thing I was noticing is a lot of those places in Calgary aren't like, none of them are on the C train. You know what I mean? So, oh my God, I couldn't imagine trying to get downtown on the bus from some of those places.
Yeah.
I've never been a public transit person, so
it's a pretty spread out city too. If you get way up there, like the transit's still not good to go from.
You're taking a bus to a train to a bus to a
yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen, but we, like I was saying before, we get into a lot of this in our other show, Grimerica Outlaw. If people want to check that out, we do a ton of Canadian stuff on there with clips and kind of like a Canadian no agenda. Almost.
Actually, I got an email about that. I got it's from Trevor. Hey Graham, love the show. Been listening for years. I'm also a no agenda listener. Anyway, I'm a Gen X Canadian living in the Comox Valley, and I've really been appreciating your Canadian roundup shows that you're doing on Grimerica Outlawed. So we do those like once a week, pretty much every Wednesday, and they're pretty long. They're like 2 hours. Kind of no agenda-ish in a way. We kind of deconstruct, go through some of the mainstream stuff. We focus on Canada for the most part for the first hour, I think, or I don't know. I guess we're a bit all over the map, eh? But We might be doing some more topic related. Keep them coming. Love the roundtable show too, because we did have one with a bunch of Canadian podcasters on there. And you said to email if you had any suggestions. I don't know if you're familiar with David Whitehead, but I think he'd be a great addition. He's been into the parapolitics research game for a long time, and he's a good, solid stand-up guy. Here's a show he did recently on Canada. If you want to check him out, keep up the great work, and it's called Mordor Truth Warrior. So yeah, I've heard of David before. Yeah, definitely gonna add him to the list.
Thanks, Trevor. When is the next roundup?
Roundup in 2 days. Probably May 2nd or May 3rd. The sort of the Canadian podcast roundtable. Let's say go with like Thursday, May 2nd. We'll have live and we'll have a bunch of people on there. It'll be good. We'll have like probably 6 to 10 Canadian podcasters.
Post in comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So anyway, the budget will come out tomorrow, and I think it'll include another $50 billion or so. Add $50 billion to the deficit with the stroke of a pen. But we might notice, we should notice, not having them immigrants coming in on that level should be noticeable. It's hard. That should be noticeable. But we don't know how many Mexicans and shit are coming right through from the States too. You know what I mean? There's probably a measurable percentage of the people coming over the southern border in the U.S. that keep coming all the way to Canada, I would say. Why not?
I don't know. Why would they want to? Why would you go all the way to the U.S. and then want to come up to cold, expensive Canada where you can't afford to fucking live?
Communist Canada.
And you got 7 months of brutal winter unless you're on the wet coast, and then you've got rain.
Wetback coast, they'll start calling it. Support the show. We did have an anonymous one-time donator. We can't mention, but we had one we can, right? Who was it? John?
Yeah, the anonymous one was $50. We can say that, right? Thank you. Yep. That helps out a lot. Believe me, it helps out a lot.
And we got 75 from John Nera.
Yeah. Who is from YMOP.us. I'll mention it right now. He was developing this YMOP in China. Actually, he's been on the show before.
The YMOP guy, he's the guy who sent me this mop.
Yeah. And it's like the most efficient motor mop on Earth. I think it's got like special vibrations or something, but there's a video here of them mopping a carpet. So, interesting. Grout, vac blade, cymatics. I guess it uses like cymatics or some kind of vibration in there. Oh, it does too. That's pretty cool. Huh. Cymatic cleaning.
I think he's been on the show.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. But now he's out. Apparently the mop did well. He was at a conference with it. So check it out, ymop.us. This isn't supposed to be an ad, but I like John, and he did come to visit us during the eclipse. It was nice to say hi to him and see him in person. So thanks for the donation, and yeah, check out the ymop.us. I'll put a link in the show notes too.
During the total eclipse of the heart. Were you hoping we played that song?
No, Pink Floyd was emotional enough for me.
Oh, that would have been more emotional for you?
Oh, yeah. Little Bonnie Tyler.
Would have been more emotional for you? Everyone would have been laughing and you would have been crying. That almost would have been better. If you were the only crying, the isolated.
Oh, thank God I wasn't the only one crying during the eclipse, eh?
Yeah.
There was a lot of it going around.
A lot of whining and crying going around.
Yeah.
A lot of sniffling. I gotta say. So thanks for the support. We couldn't do it without the support. We need more support. We really do. We really do. America.ca/support. It's getting, tougher and tougher up in communist Canada. And your US dollars really keep us going. So head over to grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly. Even if you sign up for $2 a month, that's like $8 Canadian. So doesn't seem like a lot, but the conversion rate's getting better every day. Grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation today. Of course, we're talking about the new podcast on Adult Brain. You can check that out. Adultbrain.ca. And there's the other podcast we were just talking about with the Canadian stuff, AmericaOutlawed.ca, where we do that kind of stuff. So a bunch of different things. Check out. It is super important that you support the show if you're getting some value from it, though. More important than ever. I mean, times are tough out there all over. If you're ever getting by, you're doing all right, sign up for a monthly today and help float the show along for a little while for some people that aren't, because people have to cancel all the time when times are tough. So,
it's hard just to keep up with attrition.
It's called the churn rate in the biz.
Yeah.
Help us keep up with the churn rate. I mean, honestly, we've been looking at like the America Outlawed numbers, and it took us like a year to gain to go up net positive 15 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So America.ca/sport. Sign up today. Quit making excuses and make a donation. And we'll read about it on the show. You'll be famous, kind of. Anyway, what do you got?
We'll talk about a couple trips coming up. We do have events coming up, or we're going to events. You want to talk about Randall's quickly, or
there is some spots left for the Scablands tour. I mean, they're doing a pretty big marketing push over there. So if you're one of the few people in our audience that want to check that out, over to contact@thecabin.com today. Click on that Randall Carlson Scablands tour up at the top. I think there's about 8 spots left or something.
May 13th to the 18th.
Month away from hanging out with Randall Carlson, actually hanging out.
And this is the what event were we calling this? Not the inaugural, but this is the prime, almost like the prime event, or this is the one, right? Where you hit all the big locations.
Yeah, it's the premier tour for sure. It's the one you'd want to get before you do anything else. Is the one is see on Joe Rogan and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
The Dry Falls, the Moses Coulee, Potholes Coulee, all that stuff.
Yeah. And then I'm going to Cosmic Summit. Darren's going to the UK in June. He's going to check out the Tychos model with those guys. And I'm going to go to the Cosmic Summit in Greensboro, right? Greensboro? Yeah.
I think so. I don't need a visa to go to the UK, right?
Visa? What kind of visa?
We didn't need one last time. We just show up.
No. Yeah, just show up.
Because they need a thing to come here.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure Tony had to get something.
No, I don't think so.
I think Tony the Fag had to get some shit to come to Canada.
Faggot, Darren.
What?
Not faggot.
Why?
Well, that's because he needs. That's the way he wants you to say it.
Well, that's clearly what I'm saying has nothing to fucking do with what Tony wants. I will give him a happy birthday though. Well, we have him on here. And also, I think you're wrong. I think he refers to himself as Tony the Fag. Here we go. He actually sent me a picture of his birthday card that his daughter gave him. And it says, "Have a fantastic birthday, you old fag." And he said, "Damn it, Grimes, look what you've started. I've never been called a fag in my life." And now my daughter is writing me cards.
Nice.
So because I think they listen to, sorry, Tony. I mean, he's really not a fag. He's a nice guy. Likes girls. But I'm curious because to me, faggot sounds more derogatory. Do you think less?
No, I don't think so. I think just meaning wise, you can get away with saying it means something else.
But a smoke can be a fag too. A smoke is a fag, not a faggot.
True.
I think you got it backwards.
But a bundle of sticks is a faggot. That's where it comes from.
A bundle of sticks is for fascism.
What?
A tightly bound bundle of sticks. That's where fascism comes from.
I think that's what a faggot is.
That's
why smoke. That's probably why a smoke is called one, because it's like a stick.
It'd be pretty weird if the fascism and faggot are coming from the same bundle of sticks. One's just wound up a little tighter. I mean, this would be a breakthrough. If this is true, we got to write a book.
You're not looking it up, right, or something?
I'm not looking it up because I don't want it on my Google. But I think that you're confusing faggotism with fascism.
Maybe that'd be funny. Wouldn't that be funny?
But like I say, maybe the fascists just tightened up the stick a little because there's stick of the dick in there. So they just tightened it up.
Oh, my God.
About fascist. And so it's the faggots that made the fascists. I mean, that's kind of what.
A bundle of sticks tied together is often referred to as a faggot. This term has its origins in ancient Rome, where a bundle of sticks called a fascis was a symbol of power and authority.
Wait, what?
It's both.
It's both. Imagine that. So there you have it, folks. Faggotism and fascism have the same roots. And I think the fascism one has something to do with trying to stick an extra stick in there, but it's too tight. And the extra stick is like a metaphor for the. I thought the extra stick you're trying to stick into the bundle was a metaphor for, you can't get any new ideas in. Wow. So they're taking the same fascist,
yeah.
using it for faggotism and fascism.
Doesn't have a T on the end.
Fascist. But that is the root word for fascism, isn't it?
No, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Check it. Check where does fascism come from?
Okay.
Bum, bum, bum.
I don't trust this AI anymore, dude.
Oh, I went back to Google for most things.
No way. What? Dude, we're having Alex Takaris on tomorrow night to talk about his book. He has these conversations with AI, and it's kind of creepy, but it's also kind of funny and enlightening and strange.
Why are you surprised that I'm using Google?
Because it's useless.
Nah, not if you know what you're doing. I mean, that's what we've been using for fucking the last 20 years.
Yeah, it still does go back to that fascio, meaning bundle or group. So fascio, meaning bundle or group.
You just have to know how to use Google. I mean, I try using DuckDuckGo sometimes. I'll use that if I'm looking for something a little more obscure. But, Google's really the search engine on most things by default, I think, right?
No, but it's just hard to.
A
lot of times it just doesn't give you any answers. It's just once you get
well,
used to
but dude, your AI is just scraping that and coming up with some bullshit. So I mean, at least I can discern through.
That's true. You just got to be careful.
No. It's fucking. You cannot trust that thing with any facts. Anything you think might be facts, you got to check it 3 times. This is the rule. If you're doing anything facts with your fucking AI thing, you got to do it 3 times. And if it comes up with the same answer all 3 times, you can probably run with it. But
we'll talk to Alex tomorrow.
If it comes up with a different answer, because a lot of times you'll be like, "You sure about that?" And it's like, "Oh shit, nah, sorry, man. This is the answer." And I'm like, "Well, no, I think the first one might have been right. I was just looking for like an explanation as to why." And it's like, "Oh yeah, fuck, you're right. It was the first answer."
I'm sorry, I wasn't being transparent and truthful.
Change the subject.
It admits that it deceived you. It's so weird. It's like, sorry, yes, you're right. I did deceive you. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. What?
Well, I don't think it's me deceiving me, though. I think
no, in Alex's book. In Alex's book, it admits it. It admits it over and over that it's like messing with him.
Yeah, I think
it's crazy, dude.
It's just a weird fucking loop with this shitty chatbot. But I'm curious to talk to Alex about that because the AI is fucking useless, and I'm even trying to use it to just like start writing all right. So I've stopped using it for everything now, because at least when I do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search, or whatever, I fucking disseminate the sources. Okay, I'm gonna use this one. Nah, that's sketchy. This. Okay, this is reputable. This is not. Depending on what I'm looking at, I might be considered different sources reputable.
So you mean you're not even
AI?
Embark on a journey book descriptions?
Yeah, you notice it's like always the exact. I can't even use it for that anymore because it's using the exact same fucking adjectives constantly. It's just it can't come up with any new words. I'm just like, well, fuck, dude, fuck. He just wrote the exact same things. Embark on a journey. There's like fucking 10 little catchphrases in there that it won't get away from. I'm just like, okay, you've become useless
already.
You know what it is useful for? Is helping me fucking confirm that I've got the right time to start Pink Floyd before the total eclipse. But it even fucked that up by a few minutes, and we had to figure it out on our own.
Why did you have to pick this gaps between? Why? I thought it was
no gaps on that album, really.
Yeah. So why did? What was it so hard to figure out? Then I don't get it.
It really wasn't. We were just kind of drinking, like a lot of weed. But you got to figure it out so it stops. When's totality, you know, because it's hard to find totality for exactly where you are. That's probably the hardest part. You're looking at the San Antonio and this, but it changed.
Oh, by minutes here and there. Like we thought it was like 131, and then here it's 127.
So the heart was beating right at fucking as it gets dark, and it's just.
Yeah.
And I think we actually missed that by.
No, it was pretty good.
20 seconds.
You caught the sun though, that's for sure.
But the clouds helped out.
Yeah.
So it would have been less of a thing, but then it came out of the clouds just when that happened. So it worked out.
Still was an amazing experience. I mean, that'd be the only album that you could do that with that everybody sort of loved and was familiar with that from the.
Well, and there's no stopping. That's what that's what the coolest part is. So there isn't really any breaks between the tracks. They really just flow from one song into another, into another, into another. And it becomes somewhat psychedelic.
Yeah. And then as soon as that thing finished, the sun peeped out during the totality. That was incredible. Everybody's like, ah.
Yeah. There you have it. Anyway. What else you got? That's it?
I think that's it, yeah. Scablands and the Cosmic Summit. Yeah, right. So June 14th. 15th and 16th are the two main days. Lots of guest speakers and stuff. It's a new dawn of an old age. Greensboro. I'm just going to read some of them. Robert Schock, Randall Carlson, Jana James, Scott Wolter, Ben Van Kerkwick, Praveen Mohan, Micah Hanks, Luke Caverns, Russ Allen will be doing his there again, Mark Young, Stephen Collins, Bob Greenier, Chris Cottrell, Jordan Collin, Hugh Newman, Timothy Hogan, Haley Ramsey, Joanne Ballard, Chandra Wick Ramasingh, Dr. Alan West, Dan Warren, Malcolm Bendall, and Dr. I. Randolph Daniel. And I missed one of the doctors. Stephen Collins is Dr. Stephen Collins, actually. And Robert Temple, maybe. I mean, holy, that's going to be amazing. So, yeah, if you use CS5184 as a coupon code, you get 15% off. You don't have to use that discount to donate to the show, but we don't get any kickbacks from this. But I will be there. We are kind of like sponsors, co-sponsors of the show, in a loose way, just not really any kickbacks or anything like that, but we want to help out and I want to be there to see everybody. And looks like the Thunderstorm Generator will be there as well with Malcolm Bendall and stuff. So it's causing a bit of controversy on its own, but it'll be good.
I bet it is because it's been a while now. I ain't seen shit, Anyway, I don't want to get into all that Bendall stuff right now, but hopefully you'll come back with like a report. Hopefully you'll get to play in touch with the machine, right? See it.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna have some of these guys on before the event too. We'll talk to some people before the event as well.
See if they can convince me that the Thunderstorm Generator is real.
Yeah.
Speaking of real, I'm gonna go see if Tychos is real. If we're at the center of the solar system or not. I mean, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. I can't tell. I heard there's some people going though. I know I'm going with Mike, my buddy Mike, and I heard Matt K was coming too. So we'll have he's coming a bunch of Randall. They're both coming a bunch of Randall events with us.
Oh, Matt's going too. That's great. Say hi. Yeah, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, my wife's going. So and then we'll be hanging out with Tony the Fagot and maybe some other UK people. Do a meetup on a Friday, and I'm gonna be scooting a boot with Tony for that week, looking at checking some stuff out. So he sent me an email. I got to read it. I haven't read it yet. I got so much shit to do. I still got to figure out shit for the wedding. So, and that's only in 4 months? May, June, July, August, 5 months. Are you back to officiating?
What do you mean?
That you're going to officiate my wedding.
Well, I mean, I didn't really say anything. Shauna just said it was easy to get a certificate or something online. So.
Well, she seemed to have given you a clear out, and you were like, "Of course, I'll do it."
Oh, well, I mean, if you guys want to hire somebody else, then that's fine with me too. But
that's gonna be you. It'll be fun. I think you could do it without crying.
Straightforward, right? I mean, no, I probably won't be able to do it without crying. I mean, it depends on what music is being played, I guess, but.
Can you wear your robe?
I can.
Remember that robe you had when you held the moon?
Oh
when you
yeah,
did
that's
spells.
right. Yeah,
You said that one.
I can wear my druid robe and I'll do like a sacrifice before the wedding and stuff.
What are you going to sacrifice?
Just something pretend.
Pretend? Is that safe? Do the gods like to be mocked? My cat sacrificed a mouse today and left me its stomach and kidneys.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it bring it to you like a present?
Left it right at the foot of my office chair here in the studio.
Isn't that awesome, eh? The way they do that, they just bring it right to you. Like, here's my gift for you, a dead mouse.
That's like the word that sprung to mind. Actually, just the organs of a dead mouse. So took me a minute to figure out I was like, what the fuck is that? The little stomach. And
You
I
like
don't know
ate
if
it
it was
on
a
the way
kid.
there. Like usually they'll bring it like full.
She just brought me the organs,
Wow.
which as an Indian would be, it's a big deal. I still have a couple hearts in my fridge, actually. I was looking at the other day. Can't give them. My buddy was here getting meat. You were here getting meat, and I was going to give you a heart, but not a lot of people are into it. It's delicious cut. So delicious cut of meat. Remember at CAC?
Yep.
Fucking heart meat is something else. How was your steaks? Did you eat them? Did you make them yet?
No, I'm making it tomorrow. I'll make one tomorrow.
Butter steaks.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, gramerica.ca/support. Support the show. What else? Anything else?
Do we need to do a bio for Dr. Glover? I mean, he's a therapist. What?
We better do a bio if it's been 5 years.
Yeah, he's a therapist, coach, speaker, educator, relationship expert with over 40 years of professional experience. Author of the groundbreaking No More Mr. Nice Guy, the best-selling Dating Essentials for Men, and the recently released Dating Essentials for Men Frequently Asked Questions. He's helped thousands of men worldwide transform their sex lives and get what they want in relationships, sex, and career. And drglover.com is his website, and I think it's all over there now. Yeah, just go to drglover.com.
Yeah, I think we moved it all. There you have it, guys. Enjoy the chat. Wonderful. Robert Glover. Dr. Robert Glover.
All right, we have Dr. Robert Glover back after 5.5 years. That's great to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Wow, it's hard to believe it's been that long. A few things have happened since then, haven't they? Like, we shut the country down, kept it closed down for a few years, and here we are again.
Yeah, exactly. Now, now there's gender has a whole different meaning now 5.5 years later,
Yeah, I guess we'll have to take a look at that maybe.
Well, I don't think we want to get into that right away, but I think that is.
Oh, we're going to save something for later. Keep people hanging, kind of like, oh yeah, we'll get into that. Stick around. We'll talk about other stuff first.
Yeah, it's definitely. I included it in the episode art. I included the feminization of the male in the episode art because I feel like it's something we have to touch on because now we're just getting into it. Because
funny how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, your book is like. Obviously, if people are new, a lot of people are probably new. I didn't realize it's been 5.5 years. Our audience has probably doubled in that in that time. And if you haven't gone back, I mean, Dr. Glover's book was, probably the most important book in my life, that in changing sort of when it comes to relating to women, especially, but everything else sort of spins off of that. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure you've read Mark Manson's book Models. I mean, and that bottles, people say that's a book for picking up chicks, but it's really not. It's really a book,
No.
I would argue, about just being your best self, and everything else sort of falls into place behind it.
Yeah, it's funny. People used to ask me a lot if I knew Mark, and they go, he says good things about you. And so I got really sick. I don't know if this is when I had COVID a few years ago, or even must have been. I was trying to remember a while back. Is when I had COVID or when I got sick with the tumor in my small intestine. So I thought, okay, everybody says Mark says such good things about me. Mark and I have talked. We know each other a little bit, and so I read all of Models to see what he said so kind about me. I get to the epilogue. In the epilogue, he says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," something like, the most profound book for men. Every man should read it, or something like that. And by then, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck had just blown up. And I thought, Mark's probably sold a lot of books for me. After Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck blew up, people probably went back and found Models. And I agree with you. Basically Models, I think if I had to give it just a takeaway, it's about don't be needy. And so, no, it's really a lot more conscious process than how to pick up women.
Before, I want to get into, we should touch on the nice guy stuff. I definitely want to get into your new.
Oh, I talk about nice guy stuff all the time.
Yeah, I really want to get into the Integration Nation stuff, but I wouldn't mind spending just 5 minutes here for the audience that have, I want to get the guys, because we do have a lot of young males in the audience, and I wouldn't mind just getting them to go back to 304 and listening to that show where we break down Nice Guy for a full hour and a half. But maybe we could just sort of touch on what that is here quick for just give us a touch. And then if guys are feeling like it's explaining something, if it's hitting a button in you, then, go listen to 304 and go get the book or the audio book from there. So
if I just say simp, is that enough to tell your young audience? They know what we're talking about. Like I said, I did an interview earlier today with a couple of young black guys in New York, and they educated me. They gave me some new terminology. One is Riz, the word Riz, and it's kind of like flirting a woman up, rizzing her, and the other one, I wrote it down. I told them I would use the word in a sentence today. Oh man, I can't even read my own writing. But when you start spending a lot of money on a woman, I can't read my own writing. What am I going to do? So, nice guy. Nice guy is basically a guy who inaccurately has internalized emotional belief. I'm not okay just as I am, and there's something wrong with me. And often they're not very consciously aware of it. But it leads to behavior where we try really hard to become what we think other people want us to be, so they'll like us, love us, we'll get our needs met, and we hide anything about us that we think might get a negative reaction. Our thoughts, our feelings, our wants, our sexuality. And what that often leads to in men is a lot of people-pleasing, approval-seeking, external validation, especially for straight guys with women. And it leads to hiding a lot of behaviors, not being particularly honest, even though we think we're nice guys. We don't tell the truth because we're too busy trying to make an impression and get people like us and avoid getting rejected in any kind of way. And it often leads to just guys getting really stuck in life. I've seen it in my life. I've seen it with thousands of guys. As you're trying to make everybody happy, getting caught up in codependent relationships where you're fixing other people, solving a problem, you're avoiding taking any kind of risk, getting out of your comfort zone. You don't really live up to your potential. You don't really get the things in life that you want. Darren, you mentioned just before we went live on the call, just how great and amazing your life is. And I've seen that in my life as I've worked on my nice guy issues and really worked at what I call becoming an integrated man, where we can integrate all aspects of ourselves and take the darker stuff that we don't want to look at, we don't want anybody to see, take the other stuff we kind of like better, bring them together, integrate them, and be this whole complete person. What you see is what you get kind of guy. And that makes you a lot more interesting. It makes you a lot more attractive. It makes you a lot more purposeful and passionate about what you do in life. So I've been working, I'm a recovery nice guy. I've been working on me for about 30 years and working with thousands of other nice guys over the last 30 years of just helping guys, level up, best version of themselves, have their best life. And going back to this simp thing, the young guys got the word for it.
Dude, even my kids, even mine, I got 3 daughters, 10, 11, and 12, and they're already like making fun of simps.
Making fun of simps.
Yeah. It's almost like the thing has come full circle already, because when I was their age, I feel like the chicks wanted us to simp over us, or they didn't want us to, but they thought they did.
Well, I like I told someone earlier today, I said, pay attention to what the women do, not what they say. Because probably every guy, every nice guy has a complaint. I've had it. How come women say they want a nice guy and then they keep going back to the jerks? So, they say they want a nice guy, and I think they probably do. Most women want a man who treats them well. But here's the problem with the nice guy when it comes to women. Nice guys are boring. If you've hidden your sexual agenda, here's a quirky nice guy thing, and practicing what I call nice guy seduction. The nice guy thinks if he's different from other men, and we've heard the women complain, oh, that guy only wanted one thing. Men just want one thing. Right? We listen to them. We go, okay, I won't be that guy. And so I won't let them know I'm talking to them because I want to see them naked. So I'll hide all of my sexual attention agenda. That means we put a big lid on our life energy. And we think if we can hide our sexual agenda from a woman, she'll want to take her clothes off. Now, the math of that is crazy. It's back ass words, but nice guys and simps believe that. And that's why your daughters are like teasing the simps, is because they are so passively pleasing, and they'll put up with anything from a girl that they like. They think if I just do enough nice things for her, she'll like me back, because inside they don't believe they have anything really to offer. That just me being me. I've written a couple books on dating, and there's a lot of us get frustrated with the whole dating process, and I did for much of my life. And the core thing I tell guys is be you, be yourself. And guys will go, well, I guess that's not working so well. I'm being me, and I don't seem to be attracting too many women. Well, two pieces there. Number one, maybe they are attracting women, just don't notice it, or they're not attracting the women they fantasize about from porn. So, like some guys will say, well, unless I can date a 10, I'm not going to date. That's like saying, well, unless I can drive a Bentley, I'm not going to drive. I mean, start with a Honda Civic and you'll work your way up. Get some skills, right?
They might be jerks too. I mean, isn't there I think it's probably good to clarify, the opposite of a nice guy isn't a jerk, right? It's just somebody who's authentic and honest. I mean, I think that's part of the key, right?
Well, let me put that out there. Yeah. Because that's what a lot of guys say. They'll even say, okay, I get I'm a nice guy. I get I'm too passively pleasing. I'm avoiding conflict. I'm giving to get, right? But they'll say, I don't want to come over here, other side of the spectrum, and become the asshole. And I tell guys, listen, that's not what we're talking about. And because guys are kind of black and white, it's either this or this. And they go, well, I want to find a balance between. I said, well, listen, these are two toxic extremes. I don't know where the tipping point is between two toxic extremes. And that doesn't become healthy. I think both the nice guy or simp, the asshole jerk, are both trying to just manage their anxiety and their shame of not feeling good enough. And so they're in constant state of that fight, flight, freeze mechanism, survival. The nice guy does it by fleeing and freezing. The jerk over here does it by being aggressive, by fighting, right? But they're both in a fight, flight, freeze, manage anxiety, manage shame. So really what I talk about in No More Mr. Nice Guy is that integration thing. Is we come up to another level. We don't find a halfway point between two toxic extremes. We go up to another level where we learn to do things like differentiate, ask ourselves what do we want, what's important to me, and then follow through on that. We learn to soothe ourselves. We learn to get grounded and breathe so we can do things that scare us rather than back away from them and try to manage or manipulate those things that scare us so we don't have to feel afraid. We learn how to set boundaries. We learn how to ask for what we want. We learn how to, say yes to ourselves. We learn how to connect ourselves with a team of brothers that help us, excel in our life. So there's a lot. It's not just going from this end of the spectrum, swinging over here and acting like a jerk. It really becomes a whole different kind of guy. And, you're talking about daring your daughters. I'll throw this out real quick. One of the things I've been saying for a few years, my son is 38. He's a millennial, and my granddaughter turned 17 this last year, and I go visit her every year on her birthday. I think it was her 16th birthday. I went to visit her for her birthday in October, and I've been saying for a while, my granddaughter is a strong young woman, highly intelligent. At age 3, she understood reverse psychology. She understood innuendo. I mean, she was just smart. I think maybe on her 8th birthday, I went to visit her. We're sitting in the hot tub, and she's talking about the expanding, Big Bang and expanding universe. At 9, she was talking about natural selection and the evolution of the species. This young woman's just telling me this stuff, and she's strong. My son's an outdoor biologist, so she's growing up outside. She loves snakes, animals. I've always said that girl has a father who's an Iraq vet, strong man. She's hung around me a lot of her life. She's seen, strong men in her life. She's going to need a strong man. And I thought, hopefully, I'm changing the world enough that my granddaughter, who's now 17, will have a choice of strong, who can match her strength. And I loved it when I went to visit her on her 16th birthday. We're having lunch, and she's going to the homecoming dance coming up in a few days. And she says, "Grandpa, the boy that's taken me to the homecoming dance, his parents are reading your book." I thought, yeah, success. It's trickled down to my 17-year-old granddaughter.
That's
Do you
awesome.
think that insulates them from dating idiots to a certain extent? Does a lot of this stuff go back to the fact that a lot of these women don't have strong men in life, or because it's got to be both sides, right? Because the whole nice guy thing, a lot of that is coming from the absence of males in your life, strong males in your life.
What's interesting?
It has the same effect on women. Do I have to worry about my daughters less because I'm not a pussy?
Well, here, let me see if I can answer that. When I started working with nice guys, a real core piece was an absence of a trusting, loving relationship with a man, with a father. Parents were divorced, or dad was working all the time, or dad was angry or alcoholic. Nowadays, the younger men I talk to, most of them describe their father as a nice guy. Yeah, my dad is a nice guy. And all he really taught me about being a man is don't piss off your mother, because that's what he was trying not to do. So if you can get me not to piss mom off, then he doesn't have to deal with a pissed off woman in his life. So here's the thing. I've been saying, I'm a marriage and family therapist by training. So for 40 plus years, I've listened to men and women talk about their relationship dynamics. And so I have empathy for women in many ways. But the main way I have empathy, going back to what Graham said, if this is the choice women have, over here is the passively pleasing doormat. The women can walk all over him. He hides his agenda from them. He can't be trusted. He won't set the tone and lead. He won't make a decision. There's one choice for women. The only other choice they get is the asshole jerk. The ones they complain about. The one that sleeps with their best friend. The one that steals their money. The one they can't depend on. The one that cheats on. Just blah, blah, blah. And that's the two choices women have had for a relationship. They've not had this choice of this guy up here. The differentiated, integrated, self-soothing, purposeful man. One of the things that I often say is that the feminine is highly attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own skin, knows where he's going, and looks like he's having a good time getting there. I say that in front of female coaches, and they all go, that. But women have not had that choice. When I know if I'm talking to a woman like on an airplane or just somewhere, and they, what do you do? And I work with men, teach them about relationships. Oh, what do you teach them? And I'll tell women what I teach men about being integrated male, about being strong, purposeful, honest, differentiated. And the women go, Where can I meet guys like that? Can I come? Can I come stand in the parking lot outside your seminars? Will you put up a website? Women have not had that choice of men. They've had the passive man and the asshole man that they can't trust or depend on. And I'm thrilled that my granddaughter maybe is going to have a greater choice, have a greater selection of boys, of men to choose from. And hopefully we're giving a gift to the women of the world. I know kind of, out in more of the kind of left extremes of things and woke, they think anything that empowers men has to be bad, right? Men have had all the power, men, patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, when men are empowered, they treat women well. When men are empowered, they bless the lives of women and their children. So I'm thrilled that I really believe we're moving into a new phase where we really are seeing more and more conscious men, open-hearted men, purposeful men, strong men that are making the world a better place and giving women a healthier choice for who they're going to connect with.
Where did this thing come off the rails? I mean, your new project, the Integration Nation, looks like it's based on a lot of some masculine initiation stuff, which we had a whole side project for a few years because we feel like this initiation is something that's missing from our society. Even on if it's just sort of like strictly a symbolic thing, like a bar mitzvah or something like that, there's at least some sort of, you go from a boy to a man there, whereas most of us, it's just you just sort of fumble into it and figure it out, and it's not till you're 45 that you figure out that no, everyone's just the same as you, and no one has anything fucking figured out.
We're all bumbling our way through, but you're right. And if you just look at human history, up until about, say, following World War II, that prior, in human history, if you go back, for 1.5 million years, we humans, our predecessors of the human race, were tribal. We were hunters, we were gatherers, we were nomads, and the young boys in every tribal community, you can still find them in some places of the world. At about 10, 12 years old, the men of the tribe come and take the boys, away from the women, away from the tribe, take them out, put them through some sort of initiation where they have to face fear, life and death. If you watch the movie 300, there's a scene in there of, the boy in the cave with his spear and the wild animal outside. I remember when I was young, seeing a National Geographic show. This made an impression on me. I don't know how old I was just a kid, where the boys had to climb up a tree in the jungle, tie a vine around their ankle, and jump. I mean, this is pre bungee jumping, but I don't think that vine had much flex to it. So, I've heard that there's a ceremony of the men would tie the boy down to an anthill all night long. And, the red ants pick them. There's a sun dance where you put these hooks in your chest and you fast and you stare into the sun for 3 days. That's masculine initiation. It's learning to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And even when we became a more agrarian society about 10,000 years ago, living on farms, and then even became more of an industrial society in the last couple of 100 years, boys still grew up around men, right? They grew up around their father, their uncles, their grandfather, their cousins. They were out doing guy things, whatever that is. And I'm not trying to preach some sort of, gender role. This is what men do. This is what women do. But they were with men. They did not spend much time with women. It wasn't until men came home after World War II, and while they were off fighting, the women had come into the factories to build the weapons and the things they needed to fight the war. And then when the men came back, the women stayed in the workplace, right? And so it's only been since World War II that men and women really have even worked together or had that much close connection with each other. And so things have changed dramatically. And now we've got all these romantic ideals. You find the one woman, you're going to move in and live with her forever and be happily ever after, because men and women get along so well, right? And all we got to do is find the right one and everything will just work out perfectly. Now, somebody asked me a little while back, they said, why has nice guy syndrome been so sticky? Why does it seem to be getting bigger? And especially they put it in the context of especially with pleasing women. And that is a pretty core dynamic. Again, I see it even in gay men, not even just straight guys, even men that don't want to sleep with women tend to have this kind of reverence of women. And it's not a good reverence. Okay. So the point I made, and if you think about this, when we come into the world, we're completely dependent, needy, immature, vulnerable, and our first caregiver is whom? It's mom. It's a woman. If it's not mom, it's a caretaker, it's a nanny, it's an au pair, it's preschool, babysitter. Our first caregivers are women. That means our survival when we were completely dependent and needy and vulnerable depended on the woman around us being okay and us pleasing her and her, valuing us and our needs. That was essential. So we grow up, all the early influences are women. And then we get into elementary school. And I don't know about you guys, but I had one male teacher in all of elementary school. I've polled a lot of nice guys on this over the years. The average is about 1.5 male teachers. Some guys didn't have any. Some guys had 2. If you went to a Catholic school, parochial school, you might have had a bunch of priests. So then we get to elementary school. And just to get from 2nd to 3rd grade, not only do we have to master our reading, writing, and arithmetic, we got to master how to please a woman. We got to please a woman in order to get to 3rd grade. Now, unfortunately, the male brain sucks at figuring out how to please a woman. I mean, I think probably we've all figured that out along the way. Here we are trying to make them happy, and they never seem to be happy. And we go, what'd I do wrong? We assume we did something wrong. Now, here's the thing. It makes sense that men would be working really hard to please women. Now, if you even add to it, now, when we get in the school system, little boys come home from school in the 3rd grade and say, Mommy, Daddy, what's toxic masculinity? They're hearing those things at school. And the little girls, Darren's daughters, are teasing them about being simps. And they go, what's a simp, Mommy, Daddy? So it makes sense that boys would be following the now what I call the golden rule of manhood is don't piss off the woman. I don't care if you're in the workplace. There's laws in the workplace. You piss off a woman, the federal laws require the company fires you. If she says that man made me uncomfortable, you're out the door, right? No matter what it is you did or didn't do, you're gone. I'm not trying to play victim here, but I am just saying that's why men are walking around on eggshells trying not to piss off women. But here's the deal. Back to your question, Darren. The difference is, I think it's probably always been that way. Boys have always grown up pleasing their mommies until at about 12, the men came along, took them out of that environment, broke that symbiotic bond with their mothers, initiated them into the scary, frightening, challenging world of the masculine. And then the stories I've heard about tribal initiation, after they spend a night on an anthill, the next day the men take him to the river, wash him off, anoint him, do a ceremony. He's a man now. And they point him to the adolescent girls and say, have your pick. He's a man now. And now he's not in that tribe of women that huddled around while the men are out hunting, fighting, and gathering. He's out with the men. He's not hanging out with the women anymore. And that's the problem, is that nowadays boys into adulthood never leave the nursery, where we can just sit and have things pushed to us. Information on the internet, television, porn, smoking dope, playing video games, drinking, never doing anything that challenges us or gets us out there into the real world and to become masterful. And I put this on the men. Like you said, Darren, the men have not been initiating the boys and the young men into the scary world of the masculine. We can't blame the women for that. The men haven't been doing their job. So yeah, Integration Nation, I want every man on this planet who wants to be in a community of men, good men doing better, and experience the power of masculine initiation. I want them to be able to experience that. So that's why when most men are retiring and, playing golf and watching Fox News, I decided to launch a new company and try to bring Integration Nation to the men of the world. And we just launched July 2023, and it's so much fun. We had 100 new guys come in just last week, guys from all over the world, every color, every stripe. It's just been amazing. I'm having so much fun.
That's awesome. I did have a question from earlier, and we can get back into the Integration Nation, but for like I came through addiction and I was lying to myself and lying to people without even realizing it. Like I thought I was a good guy, but you mentioned that sort of lying, you know, getting out of that mode of being a nice people pleasing guy, but not being authentic. Like what are some things to even be able to recognize that, to be able to make that shift? Because it did take me a while. Like, and then all of a sudden I started going, oh, I was just about to, like when you said it, I was just about to lie to somebody. Or I was just about to make up an excuse.
Yeah.
I can now say like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't have to say yes and then not show up, you know?
Yeah.
So like, is there some tricks that'll help you sort of increase that awareness of your behavior?
I love this question and I love this subject, you know, without spending more time on Integration Nation, but I taught a lesson last night on our weekly call about honesty. And a key point number one of that lesson was nice guys, let's add addicts to it. Nice guys and addicts have an awkward relationship with the truth. You know, all the while we think I'm a good guy, you know, and good guys don't lie, right? Good guys aren't deceitful. So that means we actually have to become really unconscious and compartmentalized around all the ways that we do lie. And, you know, as doing my own addiction recovery, I began my recovery in a 12-step group. So we do have to learn to be honest with each other. And often when people ask me, what are the steps to recovering from nice guy syndrome? The first 2 steps I put out is number 1, find safe people and go start releasing your shame. Toxic shame is that belief I'm not good enough, I'm not okay, I'm defective. Start telling safe people, a coach, a therapist, 12-step group, that's where I started it, men's group. Start telling them all the things you don't want them to know about you. I was going to this 12-step group for sex addicts. I quickly found out I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict, but my wife was convinced I was. But I tell you what, these guys is all guys. They had some gnarly stuff going on. And I just went every week and just told everything I'd never told anybody about myself. I grew up in a fundamental Christian family. I have 2 degrees in religion. You know, most of my life I wore this mask. Look, I'm good. And yet hiding stuff, not being truthful, not saying what I really wanted. My yes wasn't yes. My no wasn't no. That's Bible scripture, by the way. That's Matthew 5. You know, let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't say you're going to do it. If you do want to do it, don't say, no, it doesn't matter. If it does matter, yeah, claim it. And so that releasing shame with safe people is the number 1 starting point for nice guy recovery. For me, and I think probably for most guys, number 2 is becoming conscious of just how less than honest we are. And I have to define honesty to the men I work with. I always love it when men say, you know, I'm pretty honest. And I go, that's a contradiction of terms. You can't be pretty honest. That's being kind of pregnant. You know, you're pregnant or you're not. You're honest or you're not. And I remember my stepdaughter in my second marriage, you know, like most adolescents, had an awkward relationship with the truth. And, you know, I'd call her out when she didn't tell me the truth about things. I mean, with love. And she'd say, well, you know, I tell you the truth most of the time. And I remember telling my stepdaughter, I said, listen, you might tell me the truth 80% of the time, 90% even. But if I know you lie to me 20% of the time, how do I know what I'm getting? All right, it's what you just told me. Is that in the 80 or is that in the 20? I don't know. So unless I know you tell me the truth 100% of the time, I'm going to have to default with it could be a lie. Even if you tell the truth 90% of the time, it still could be a lie. It might be the 10%. And what I found with addicts, with nice guys, with adolescents, is that we lie to ourselves. We either stay oblivious to the fact of how dishonest we are, and because we think, well, I'm not bad, or I tell most of the truth, and we think that's a good enough standard. But again, it's not. It's not. We're kind of truthy. You know, we're honest-ish. You know, kind of like monogamish. You know, yeah, I'm monogamous until I'm not. You know, that kind of thing. I'm honest until I'm not. But that's the thing that I know my ex-wife told me when she said, you got to get into, you got to go to therapy. You got to get help. The main thing she told me was she couldn't trust me. And as a marriage therapist, that's what the guys kept coming into my office. And the women are saying, I don't trust him. The guys saying, my wife says she doesn't trust me. I'm a good guy. I'm not that jerk. But the truth is, for a nice guy, you say, yeah, I'll do it when you don't really want to. You put it off. You don't get around to, oh, I forgot. Oh, I forgot to tell you I was flirting with that barista at Starbucks. Oh, I forgot to tell you, oh yeah, I'm looking at porn again and telling after I told you I wouldn't do it anymore. All that stuff. And what nice guys do is we think, all right, if I don't out and out lie, now I won't tell the whole story. I won't bring the story up. I know my ex-wife was so intuitive. She was the woman I was married to when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy. She would say, you're lying to me. You're lying about X, Y, or Z. And I'd be going, she's right. I'm lying to her. But luckily, I'm not lying to her about X, Y, and Z. I'm lying to her about A, B, C. So because she got it wrong, I can deny, yeah, I'm not lying about that. I'm not lying, but I'm still lying to her, right? And I could convince myself I was okay. There was nothing wrong with that. So here's what I started doing. I started every time. If you start listening, you can listen. You can hear the voice in your head that says, tell it this way. Leave it out. Do you ever rehearse conversations? I used to do that all the time. Every conversation I had to have, if I thought somebody's upset at me or might be in trouble, or that I'm thinking, well, when I get home, they're going to be mad, whatever, I'd rehearse it. Do you do that too, Graham?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so that voice is coaching you. It's like you have a lying seminar going on in your head all the time. If you pay attention, you can actually hear that. And so, for example, two things I started doing to get more truthful. Years back when I was doing my own personal recovery in that second marriage, whenever I would notice that voice saying, oh, tell her there was so much traffic on the way home, that's why I'm late. When the truth was, when she called me and said, what time are you coming home? And I said 5 o'clock. I knew I couldn't be home by 5 o'clock, but I didn't want to upset her. So I told her what I thought she wanted to hear. She just wanted to know when I'd be home so I'd have dinner ready, right? But I'm thinking, oh, she wants me home now. I can't go home now. I'll say 5 o'clock, and then I leave at 5:30, and then I'm late and making up stories all the way, all the traffic, all the stoplights, all the accident. And so what I started doing is every time I noticed that story building, I'd get home, I'd say to her, listen, I need to tell you something. I was going to tell you a lie. Here's the lie I was going to tell you. And I would tell her the lie. And I said, here's the truth. I told you I'd be home at 5. I thought you wanted me home now. And I wasn't going to be home till 5:30, but I thought I'd need it. And she goes, I just want to know what time you're going to be home so I could have dinner on the table, right? So I started telling, here, I was going to lie to you. Here's the lie I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
Here's the truth. And amazingly, for a woman, my ex, so I used to say her middle name ought to be Overreact because that's what she did to everything in life. When I wasn't truthful with her, yeah, I got the overreaction. She had a knowing. The feminine has a knowing of that. But when I go home and say, oh, I was going to lie to you. Here's the lie. Here's the truth. She goes, okay, thanks for telling me the truth. She'd never get upset. I'm thinking, wow, why didn't somebody tell me that a long time ago?
And I think once you catch a couple of those thoughts, then I think the more you practice it, the easier it gets to sort of notice it. And then I think you just stop doing it. I mean, or at least you get to the point where you're hardly doing it.
You're hardly, well, still that's on 90%. I'm pretty honest. I'm honest-ish. Here's the deal. I still catch myself doing that rehearsal of conversations, not so much creating stories, but rehearsing the conversation. Oh, because I think maybe somebody's going to be upset or whatever. I learned it with my father because he overreacted to everything. So now when I catch myself rehearsing a conversation, for example, I'll stop. I'll have a dialogue, have a conversation with me. I'll say, listen, are you going to have this conversation?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, I'll go, stop rehearsing it if you're not going to have it.
You're making a bunch of assumptions.
Yeah, I'm wasting time. If I am going to have the conversation, I ask myself to commit to when. This afternoon or tomorrow, I'll send the email or I'll call them tomorrow, whatever. I'll commit to when I'm going to have the conversation. Then I ask myself another question. Are you going to tell the truth? I go, yeah, I'm going to tell the truth. Then fucking quit rehearsing because the truth needs no rehearsal.
Right.
You don't have to rehearse the truth. Just go and say, here's what happened. Here's the deal. Here's where I'm at.
That's a really good point. I mean, that really is one of the huge sort of side benefits of being honest. I mean, it really does free up a whole bunch of this sort of effort and mechanism for keeping all your shit together. I mean, I used to have, obviously in, deep in addiction, you got a million different lies and you got to keep all your circles of friends
That's too much
apart. And
work.
they can't even get. I mean, it's so much work. It's so much fear just to say you don't have to worry about what you ever said because it was your truth. It was
That'll
the
drive you to drink. You got so many lies you got to keep up with. You know, and here's the thing. Years ago, I had an affair, like 40 years ago. And what surprised me is as a nice guy, I thought I'm a good guy. I found out I'm a really good liar. That really surprised me. It amazed me how long I maintained an affair in secrecy. And anytime anything came out that, I should have got nailed for, I lied my way out of it. And, that was kind of like, man, how did I get here where I became such a good liar? And I realized I'd been out of integrity my entire life in so many little ways. It was a skill set that had built up all the while thinking I was a good guy. I was a nice guy. So yeah, this lying thing can be so subtle that it's just always just whirring in the back of our heads. And when you make a commitment that I'm gonna be a what you see, what you get kind of guy. Nothing hidden, nothing half-assed. If I'm gonna do it, let the world see it. If I'm gonna say it, let the world hear it. Not one thing over here, one thing over here.
Yeah.
I do a lot of interviews. I do a lot of podcasts. And I realized a long time ago, I better be authentic. I better be true. I better be honest. I better be myself because this stuff's getting out there in the world. And, people can see this and they can watch that. Well, he said that there. He said that there. What's up? So, so if it's not enough, trying to have relationships with women, then you better keep your story straight. Now I'm out there in the world. So it's just so much fucking easier. Just tell the truth.
Yeah.
Just tell the truth.
Yeah, and people start to respect you more, and they'll start to, rely on you more. They'll believe you more, obviously.
The greatest compliment for me, I'm a dude. I like a good compliment. I like to be appreciated. I like to be valued for what I do. And the biggest compliment for me is when somebody says, "Robert, you're so authentic. You're so real. You just put it all out there." Why I think for me that's a compliment is that 35 years ago, nobody would have ever thought of telling me I was authentic. Nobody would have even said that. I was a chameleon. I was Teflon. Everything was hidden. Nobody ever told me I was authentic or real or true. Now when somebody says, "Robert, you're so authentic," I take that as a very, very deep compliment because I've worked at it. It's been a lot of work to be me, to just be me, be the you, let the world see you. And I think I was saying earlier about guys that say, when I'm dating, women aren't attracted to the real me. And I go, how many women have you let see the real you? How have you even seen the real you? Do you let you see the real you? Your dark thoughts, your wants, your impulses, your neediness, what the things you don't let the world see. That's why I say, go find a safe place and start letting safe people see the real you and then start bringing that to the world.
That's great. Is that kind of what you're doing in your workshops then with the initiation, with the what's it called again? The integration.
So what you might call it, the integration nation thingamajig.
Nation.
Yeah, the integration nation. I've been doing that in my work with men for 25 years. Is that, and that's why when I tell women, what I teach men, they want to meet them. When I was dating, when I was single, I got divorced from my second wife in my late 40s and got out in the dating world and got good at dating. That's how I ended up writing some books about it. And after if I got where I was dating a woman, we'd been on, a few dates, and it looked like we're going to keep seeing each other. I started doing something. I did this with like 3 or 4 different women in the dating process. I'd tell them, listen, if we keep seeing each other, here's what you can expect from me. 4 things. I'd tell them this. I'll be conscious. I'll pay attention to you, to me, to us. I'll be honest. Everything I tell you will be the whole truth. You won't ever find out I told you anything that was not 100% true. So I'll be transparent. You'll know what I think, what I feel, what I want, where I'm going, what I want from you. I said, and number 4, I will set the tone and take the lead. I won't ever come home and say, what do you want to do tonight? I'll have a plan. I'll show up with a plan. Every woman I told that to kind of got this flush, this rush. And they go, I've never had a man tell me that before. And they said, you need to write another book because men need to know that. So what women are really saying is, we're not used to trustworthy, transparent men who will show up and lead. They want that. They're dying for that. So yeah, I've been teaching men that concept for quite some time, not just to try to get women or try to please women, but how to live your life. I mean, think about it. It's not a bad formula for living your life. Consciousness, honesty, transparency, and leadership. And the world's craving that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So what about the Integration Nation? Is that an extension of that? Or is it a new thing? Or how different is that from your normal sort of 35 years of working with guys on this stuff?
Well, that's actually what Integration Nation is. It's that 30. I'll kind of give you the backstory. About 6 years ago, I mentioned I had a tumor blocking my small intestine. I was really sick. I was in pain all the time. I lost 30 pounds. Just couldn't eat, couldn't shit. Just wanted to sleep most of the time. I went to doctors here in Mexico, United States. I got undiagnosed, misdiagnosed. Oh, it's you just got a parasite, or you got an ulcer, or you got impacted colon, or nobody ever got it right. To finally a doctor down here found it. I mean, he ran the right test on me and ran a CAT scan and said, you got a tumor blocking your small intestine. We need to do surgery. Okay, you found it, you take it out. And had surgery. And in 2 weeks after that, I was on an airplane flying to Seattle to lead a workshop. So I've been great. But I surrendered into this might be killing me. I didn't know what it was. That was the hardest part. I surrendered into not knowing what it was. So something about almost dying gets your attention. It really wakes you up that, okay, this is real. I am going to die. And so it really got me to thinking about, just the 30 years worth of content that I've created, not just books I've written, but all the courses I'm teaching, the podcasts I've recorded, interviews I've done, live Q&As, just forums. I mean, I've got thousands of hours worth of content. So I was working with my tech guy, and he said, well, we can take everything, clip everything, whether it's audio, video, written, we can transcribe it. We can put it in a format that everything is searchable, and we can create an archive and give people access. And this is about 4 or 5 years ago. And then we could maybe even be able to put, connect AI to it, and it'll be able to, do this to it, do that. And, and I go, no, that's a long way off. I'm not a good prognosticator. Now we can connect AI to it. It can convert it to any language. It can write articles based on things I've taught. And so my intention was to create that platform to just get my material out there. I didn't want to die and have everything I created be in a Dropbox folder somewhere that nobody knew about. And so 3 years ago, probably almost 3 years ago to this month, a guy attending a workshop with me here in Puerto Vallarta, he was actually, he has a school teaching mortgage lenders how to do that. And he said, Robert, you need to develop a membership program for men to teach everything you teach. He said, my wife has a sourdough membership program, and she made $750,000 over the last 2 years. $750,000 for sourdough? And so I thought, okay, maybe you're onto something. I was already thinking semi-retirement at that time. Maybe I'll just won't work so much. I'll retire, go enjoy the RV, travel around. And I was kind of thinking that way. So I got looking more at it. I thought, I really like that idea of leaving behind as a legacy a program that does at least two things. One, give men community. When I started my recovery, I didn't know to call it nice guy syndrome. Then I just ended up like saying a 12-step group. All there really was out there for men was like Robert Bly, Iron John, mythic, poetic stuff. And I went out in the woods with a talking stick and beat drums and said, ho. But that was pretty much pre-internet that, you heard about stuff like that word of mouth. Maybe you read a book in mainstream media, you saw the book about it. Nowadays, there's so much to pick from out there. There's so many men's coaches. There's so many life coaches. There's so many programs for men. And I want every man on the planet to be able to be a part of a community. When I went on my book tour for No More Mr. Nice Guy back 2003, doing media interviews, people would say, well, Robert, do you think there's going to be a worldwide men's movement, like feminism? I said, no, I don't think so, because there's no one thing to bring men together like feminism was. And I was right and I was wrong. I don't know there's ever going to be this one thing that brings men together, but how I look at it, I see around the world Men go looking for a dojo to go do their Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They go join a divorce support group in their church. They go join a 12-step group and start going to the stag meetings, just the guys. They go to a pickup boot camp and go out cruising with men to hit on women. Maybe they go to, like a David Data consciousness, more conscious movement kind of thing and learn yogic type stuff. What I'm realizing, men go looking for something, and whether it's to go do martial arts or go pick up women. But the truth is, what they're looking for is tribe. They end up with a group of men, whether it's in their dojo. What most guys tell me they love most about pickup is just going out with a bunch of guys, having a good time with guys, and they just happen to be hitting on women. But they're with guys. That divorce support group with guys. That stag 12-step group with guys. That retreat into the desert is with guys. And that is what's leading this men's movement. We men need men. We've been so disconnected from men. And out there in the world of the feminine, trying to please women, we realize we need the men. So I wanted to create something that gives men both community. And of course, we're starting out virtual. And just yesterday, we announced we're starting local meetups. The guys in the community can start around the world. We have several hundred men now. We do have men all over the world. I hope that at some point we have our programs in multiple languages, calls every week, where we're not far away from having a Spanish call every week, a German call, a Polish call, maybe a Russian, maybe a Hindi call. So I really want men to just have this consciousness raising, heart opening, empowering experience with other men. And the truth is, we go looking for love from women. But the feminine is not the source of love. The feminine is a seeker of love. That's why, going back to that Mark Manson thing, is don't be needy. You're going to a needy, to a woman, love me. And they're going, I don't need that. I want to be loved. The masculine is a source of love. The masculine love is intention and action. Those are masculine traits. Right? That's Scott Peck's definition of love. So if we want to feel loved, if we want to be leveled up to our best, if we want to be supported, if we want to be sharpened, we need good men to do that. And I've been doing that in workshops. I've been in programs myself for the last several years where I get that from men. I have several men support groups I'm a part of that support me. So I wanted to give that to the men of the world. I wanted to give them the masculine initiation. Where at some point in the near future, we'll start weekend retreats where we go and just do challenging stuff to initiate men into that world of the masculine. Then, like, this started to be a way just to give men access to my archive of material. So that part of the program we haven't even launched yet. That'll come in the next 6 months or so, where there'll be another part of the platform that men will be able to get access, complete access to everything that I've ever created, my courses, my podcast, every Q&A I've ever done. So instead of scrolling social media on Instagram, with all the noise and bullshit there, they get on their phone and they connect with other conscious guys. We have an online platform that we built from scratch. No Facebook, no Mark Zuckerberg stealing our data. We built this thing. It's private. It's encrypted. To get into Integration Nation, you got to send a picture of your ID. We're only letting in guys, right? Nobody posing. This is for guys. And so we're really trying to build a platform where men feel safe to be themselves, to bond, to connect, to grow, to be loved in ways that we haven't experienced in life. There's an epidemic of loneliness in men that typically leads to things like the drinking, the drugging, the suicide. And men need the connection, and we're not going to get that from women. We have to get it from each other. So there's the longest story of why, when I should be retired and enjoying the RV at 68 years old, I made a commitment last year. I'm in it for another 20 years. Lord willing, I'm going to take good care of myself. I want to work out every day. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to get enough sleep. I'm going to connect with guys, get my needs met. And I plan on being around another 20 years building this legacy that I want to leave behind for the men of the world, for my granddaughter. It's all for her.
Darren, you got any questions?
Well, you kind of touched on it a bit, but we've got, other than loneliness, we seem to have a weird epidemic of guys almost turning into women. I mean, and in some cases actually turning into women.
That happens. That happens.
What I guess has always happened, or so they tell me, but it's definitely seems to be accelerating. Does this tie into this nice guy syndrome at all, or is this some new thing? But what is going on with this? You must have an opinion, being how close you are to masculine and feminine, and they're trying to tell us that those aren't real things anymore.
Yeah, let's go let's go there. I went to graduate school for my doctorate in marriage and family therapy in the early 1980s, and I was young. I was in my early 20s, and I think I considered myself a feminist. I thought, okay, legitimate claim, equal pay for equal work. My mother was probably what would be called a pre-feminist. She raised me to be different from my father. Even told me that. She said, I'm raising my sons to be different from their dad. So in other words, be nice to women. Don't be patriarchal, basically. She taught my sisters to not need a man, and they haven't. They've both been married, but they both, pretty the careers was their careers are the most important thing for both my sisters. So I get to, university, graduate school in the early 80s, and in my child development courses, the feminist teachers are saying this: there is no gender. They're saying it's a social construct imposed on little boys and little girls, and especially gender roles. This is what boys do. This is what girls do. But all the while saying, with no scientific evidence or studies, that there is no gender, it's a social construct. They're also then saying everything traditionally masculine is bad. Competition, because it's masculine, is bad. But cooperation, because it's traditionally feminine, is good. I was taught this. They was taught this as fact. And, I thought, okay. So I bought my son a Cabbage Patch doll when he was born. And he's 38 now. And, he could care less about the Cabbage Patch doll. His first word was truck. And that's not unusual for little boys, for the first word to be ball or truck. And now there's enough studies out there. There were even then, but even more studies now, where they put boys and girls, in different environments and just watch how they interact with their environment. And almost without fail, now these are generalizations. There's exception to every rule, every generalization. The boys go to stuff they can manipulate, pound on, and turn into a gun. Darren, I see all your guns back there on the wall. You're not done with it yet. So that's what little boys do. And now little boys can get out of school if they just go like that with their finger, like they're pretending to have a gun. It's what boys do. It's wired into their DNA. They're hunters, gatherers, and warriors. And almost across the board, again, there's exceptions, little girls will gravitate to the dolls. And not only do they gravitate to the dolls, they now start making up stories and having role play and having conversations with the dolls. And it's just a consistent thing. Now, just biology wise, medically, men and women's diseases are different. You can take a male brain out and a female brain out and tell which it is. A scientist can look at it. You bury a person's bones in the ground and dig them up, 30 years later, you can tell if it's a man or a woman. There are differences, and we don't have to get rid of all the differences. We can honor them, but not like, say, well, you're a girl, you have to be this way. You're a boy, you have to be this way. Yeah, gender can be somewhat fluid. Sexuality can be somewhat fluid. These things can be fluid, but to say they're completely fluid, as a buddy of mine who teaches sex ed in elementary school says, there's the standard line, there's as many genders as there are people on the planet. Now, if it isn't confusing enough to go through adolescence, being, what does it mean to be a guy? What does it mean to be a girl? Whatever. Now, one day I can have a boy's name. One day I can have a girl's name. And I can go back and forth. I can be whatever I want. Okay, that's a fun game. But I think it gets more confused. I think we're confusing kids. And now, growing up, every adolescent, their main goal is to fit in somehow, to be accepted. And most kids going through adolescence don't fit in. Most kids don't feel accepted. Most kids feel on the outside. Now we've almost kind of created a system that if you're fringe enough, you're important. You can count. So it kind of began a few years ago with if you color your hair, wear enough colors, get enough piercings, have enough tattoos. Now it's gone on into sexuality. Oh, you mean if I'm fringe? And I don't mean fringe meaning there's something wrong. I know that'll be misinterpreted. Take a bell curve of where an entire population lands. I don't care if you're talking about intelligence, male, female. I don't know it doesn't matter what you're talking about, sexual orientation. There's a bell curve. The biggest block is here in the middle. Then you have on the outsides of the curve, you have the fringe. Doesn't matter what you're studying, everything fits in a bell curve. Now, we don't have to discount what's out there outside the main part of the bell curve, out on the fringe, but we don't have to start acting like the fringe is the norm, right? And somehow make it be. And so what I think is happening with kids is now the fringe gets attention. The fringe gets special categories, special treatment, special laws. And I think kids are going, oh, I want to be special. I'll be fringe. And again, this is my opinion, probably I'm not on social media, so all the hate messages I get about this, but this is coming from a place of love and respect for everybody. I've got a client that's trans. I love this guy. Used to be a woman, and he's trans. I love this guy. Most of my male friends where I live here in Puerto Vallarta are gay. So I mean, I've got great respect for whatever path a person is on. But we've got this cultural thing, just like these feminist teachers started saying, let's just teach all the up and coming school teachers so they can teach all the up and coming children. There is no gender, but everything that's male is bad. That's before they called it toxic. Now everything male is toxic, masculine. And now we've got a world. Can I come back to your question, Aaron? We got a world where I think we used to have a lot more nice girls than nice guys. Now we got all these girls out there who are like kicking ass and being competitive career-wise, and we got all the guys over here being passive and not amounting to anything in life. And so we took the competitiveness out of the boys and gave it to the girls. We took the cooperation and the complacency out of the girls and put it in the boys. And I think that's primarily been our educational system that's done that. We have an educational system that doesn't educate boys in the best way. Studies, they've done studies where they'll study how do children perform academically if they're in an all-boy environment, if they're in an all-girl environment, and mixed environment. And study after study shows both boys and girls learn better when they're in an environment without the opposite sex there to distract them or whatever. And if the education is oriented towards how they best learn. Boys best learn through experience. Boys need to be out doing stuff, breaking stuff, fixing stuff, experiencing stuff, not sitting in a classroom in a seat that doesn't fit them and, giving them a bunch of Ritalin to keep them still so they'll listen to a female teacher talking about shit they don't care about, right? So you got me going in terms of, things that we can, and this is not to be a victim to anything or anybody. I don't like playing the victim role, but I think we can identify things that are working and things that aren't working. And this whole thing of saying that there is no gender isn't working. The whole thing of saying you can choose to just be a boy or girl any day of the week, I don't think is working. And again, it didn't work either when we said because you're a guy, you have to do this, because you're a girl, you have to do that. That didn't work either. But going from one toxic extreme to another toxic extreme is never the answer. And that's really what I think we've done.
And it really doesn't seem to be going well for the L's and the G's, especially.
The L's and the G's.
Well, in the LGBTQRST,
I joke. Like I said, I've got gay friends. I joke about let's just keep adding enough letters to the alphabet that everybody gets included in it, even the straight folks. And the funny thing is, I also joke that a lot of those letters in that don't even get along with each other and don't like each other.
Well, but even your gay friends, like, would they have got to this age being gay if they were born today? Because now, as soon as they find out you're gay, all of the pressure is going to be to, you're supposed to be a girl then, we should.
I don't know.
That dick off.
I don't know. I haven't had that conversation with my gay friends. Maybe it's one. I don't know, because yes, for whatever reason, and I don't know the answer to this, why this is happening. It's part of the whole big thing I've been talking about. But for whatever reason right now, trans is the big darling of the media, of the educational system. Everything is about trans. And a while back, and again, I don't want to be ignorant. I don't want to sound ignorant. I want to be open and conscious, and I'm about, people should be able to be who they are, right? But I went and looked up about how many people in the US identify as trans, and it was less than 0.5%. Half of 1% identify as trans. And now, again, I think in a younger generation, that's probably going to be quite a bit higher, because, again, they go to the educational system and they're actually kind of like bombarded with information about being trans, and all of a sudden go, oh, okay, I'll pick that one. I want to belong. And again, I don't know what, I'm sure there are plenty of people who really do have this kind of gender dysphoria. They don't really identify with the bodies and the genitals that they're born with. I believe that's true. Again, maybe it's 0.5%. Now, why is it so much higher now if you get with the younger generations? Is it because now we're talking about it? I think now it's because it's being almost presented to them. Pick this, and they're going to pick the stuff that lets them feel like, I get to be part of that club that has all the letters in it. I get to count. I get to be important. And
our resident homosexual Andre in the chat, shout out to Andre, says it's not going well for the L's and the G's right now, and that social media and pharmaceuticals, he thinks, are playing the biggest role. But my
could be
to you would be, is this a natural progression of the nice guy syndrome? Because that would be a lot scarier, because where does that go in another generation or two? Like you mentioned, we're getting to the point where some of this confusion might be because the genders are actually swapping roles, evolutionary roles on some level.
Well, I haven't thought as far ahead as you have. So let me see let me see if I can answer the question. I do think the nice guy syndrome is growing. It is sticky. We don't have little boys being initiated by strong men. Like I said, even if dads are present now, dads are passive, and they're teaching little boys to be passive. I don't know that nice guy and sexual orientation or even gender are necessarily all synonymous. Because, again, there were nice girls back in the day, and there still are. There are, like, gay men will come to my workshops, and some of my best friends are gay, so I can talk to them about this stuff. And I remember in one workshop I was teaching, I was talking about the relationship pyramid of how men make choices about the women that they date. I'm breaking that down, where you've got the really great woman, top of the pyramid, good woman, wrong woman, really wrong woman. I was talking about that really wrong woman, the psycho bitches from hell. And I was in this program as I was in LA, and I knew there was 2 or 3 guys who were gay in the program that were already identified as that. And I asked them, I said, in the gay community, what do you guys call those types? And they go, psycho bitches from hell. So, they experience the same thing that the straight men did, in terms of, kind of the drama queens and the people that create chaos in their life. So I don't know that the nice guy syndrome and sexual orientation necessarily pull them out. Maybe because I know gay men that are true nice guys. I know gay men that are just as masculine as anybody you're going to meet.
But so I would like to take the sexuality out of it, because I'm not convinced that transgenderism has a lot to do with sexuality at this point.
I'm not sure it does either, because the experience that I've had, like I said, with one client that I know, he identifies he was butch lesbian, and at some point his partner said, you might want to consider that being a guy. And it sounds like he still has sex exactly the same way he used to have sex before he went trans and became a trans guy. It sounds like it's still exactly the same thing. And so you could be right that sexuality itself, how we express ourselves sexually, might not even be that big a part of it. And again, I'm not studied enough on this. And again, this is an area I don't want to come across as ignorant around the trans subject.
Risky territory.
But what I do know is I know enough about child development that the children do tend to orient one way or the other. And children can get easily confused, especially in adolescence when they're seeking identity and belonging. And that seems to be the educational system seems to be intentionally confusing children. And because they don't want to go that, yeah, boys are boys, girls are girls. It's like because they're so intent on getting rid of that, now it has to become that it is totally fluid. You can be either one. Either you be this, be that. One day, the next. It's okay. And I think they've just taken a bad idea to its extreme. And now the extreme is having, some pretty major consequences to the degree, like we said, whether it's social media, the media in general, state legislatures. Now states are passing all kinds of laws around trans issues of children in school. And I'm thinking, how did this become this big a deal? Again, if the average population, if a 0.5% identifies, and again, I may be ignorant about numbers here. I'm just curious to why this got carried to the extreme it is, why state legislatures are getting involved with it. Why isn't this just something that parents and their kids work out? To whatever degree
why
that
is the
needs to be
state
worked out.
actively even trying to I mean, we had our premier, which is kind of like a governor here in Alberta, just came out and said, hey, if kids are going to transition, they got to tell their parents, and they can't do any puberty blockers until they're 16. And everyone freaked out. Not everyone. I mean, if you look at the polls, the polls haven't changed since any of our changes, or if anything, our popularity's got up. But the media and even our prime minister feels like he has to get up and say, well, all this stuff is anti-LGBTQ. But I mean, personally, all the gay people I've talked to, they're if anything more upset about it than I am.
We live in an interesting
3 little girls.
Yeah, we live in an interesting world. And I have a feeling if one of your daughters came to you and said, Dad, I don't feel like a girl. I've never felt like a girl. I feel like this. I think you'd say, okay, let's, whoever you are, I love you. Let's just move forward with that. I don't know that you'd say, well, let's go get you surgery then. I think you would just love your child and let them go through that. Again, the period of adolescence is such a period of turmoil no matter what. And now all of a sudden, if we start rushing kids into major life-changing decisions at a young age, I don't think we're serving them. And take it out of the discussion of trans. If we were talking about anything that a child was wanting to make a major life-changing, body-changing decision about at 14, don't you think we'd do our damnedest to just try to get them to 18 or 19, before taking action? No matter what the subject is, My
oldest wants their lips pierced right now. The 2 in the front, so it looks like a snake fight. And I'm like,
snake fight.
You're fucking retarded. It's not fucking happening. But because you're not going to, it seems like a good idea now, but at a deeper level, I got to have the conversation. Why do you feel like, and I got to get her alone for this. It's hard when you have 3. But, why do you feel like you need to add something to your face? Because you're pretty already,
Well, if you think about this, historically, we've had laws. I mean, the role of government is supposed to be to look out for the people, look out for the individual people. So we always had laws. You have to be of a certain age to get married, a certain age for consensual sex, a certain age to drink, a certain age to drive a car, a certain age to go into the military. There's always been certain ages because they recognize there's a maturity that comes at that certain age. And just take it completely to another direction here, or same direction, but think about this. In men, the prefrontal cortex, the frontal part, thinking, reasoning part of our brain, does not finish developing until about age 25. Now, we probably all remember when we got our first driver's license, our car insurance was astronomical, right? And then at age 25, it took a major dip in how much it cost us. Now, the insurance companies did not know that at the back in the day that men started making better decisions at 25 because the prefrontal cortex finally got wired up at 25. What they had were actuary tables that said men do really stupid stuff, from 16 to 24. They speed a lot. They're reckless. They get in accidents. They drink and drive. They could look at that. Men do stupid stuff. And so we're going to charge them more to give them car insurance. Okay. Talk about there's no such thing as gender. Okay. Let's make boys and girls pay the same level of car insurance. And let's make girls register for the draft in America like boys had to register for the draft.
They might actually do that.
Just a thought.
That actually could happen.
That could happen. Okay. But the actuary tables, scientific evidence.
People who have money invested aren't going to change it.
Yeah. Those tables don't lie. That boys at a certain age are reckless. I've raised boys. I've raised girls. The girls drove me crazy with their constant drama. The boys didn't drive me crazy, but I had to go bail them out of jail at 2:00 in the morning because they thought it was a good idea to go do this thing, right? Their brains were not developed. So are we going to let people make those kind of major life-changing decisions before even their reasoning part of their brain finishes developing? I mean, like I said, no matter what the decision is, take it completely out of the trans thing. That's why we have laws that you have to be this age to get a driver's license, this age to vote, this age to drink, this age to, blah, 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 because we realize maturity changes a lot of things.
Speaking of young men, there's a real fear. And I mean, it's understandable with what's going on in the world, but there's a lack of meaning, a lack of purpose in a lot of young men. Like, I know it sort of fits in with your work, but just relationships aside, like, is there any tips for helping young men find purpose, meaning,
get off social media. That's my number one tip. Really? That never goes over well. It doesn't matter how old the guy is. I mean, it could be an 18-year-old, could be a 38-year-old. I tell men, get off. I said, at the very minimum, take social media apps off your phone.
Wow.
Would you add video games to that? Because, I mean, that's the big one I see is like, all my guys can't wait to get off of work so they can go home and play video games.
Because here's the deal. In terms of just relaxation and recreation, we all need diversion. It might be your favorite show on Netflix. It might be a video game. It might be World of Warcraft. It might be, looking at porn on the internet. It might be doing any number of things that relax you and give you diversion from, your masculine role in the world. Remember, the masculine does. And when we all have a masculine side, we all have a feminine side. That's true. And that's not a sexual thing. It's an energetic thing. The masculine does, the feminine is done too. Right? The feminine is a seeker of love and connection and just being filled. The masculine goes out and just takes on whatever needs to be done, conquers it, masters it, and then wants to rest in nothingness. Okay. So when we've been in our masculine all day long, we want to go rest in nothingness. Mindfully watch a TV show, have a drink, smoke a joint, play a video game, things like that. Okay, that's fine. It's okay if you can do that in a conscious way and say, I'm gonna go watch the show for an hour and then go to bed. I'm gonna go have one beer and stop. I'm gonna go play my video game for a half hour and be done. But all of these systems are actually built to addict us. That's what they're meant to do. The video games are built to addict us. Social media with its algorithms is built to addict us. There's people that have worked in social media that have come out and said that. I mean, it's not I'm not just making that up. They're meant to give us the flow of dopamine, the adrenaline, the cortisol, but it's all what I call push, right? We're kind of just, even if you're playing a video game, it's all just being pushed at you. Those aren't really aliens. Those really aren't, real enemies. Those really aren't cars you're stealing, right? It's just push. You're not doing anything. So we do need a break from the doing. We need to be able to go relax, kick back, and have a diversion. That's fine. But what I see with so many men is they're living in the diverted state, right? They're living in that constant state of push, which is their feminine state. And again, that's not good or bad. We all have masculine state. We all have feminine state. I love getting up in the morning, having a cup of coffee, watching the sun come up, do some meditation, write in my journal, listen to the birds. That's all me nurturing my feminine, just kind of, just soaking it in. And then I go take the dog for a walk with my wife, come home. I'm now in my masculine. It's time to get stuff done. And then when I get done talking with you guys, I can go relax now. Go play with the dog, go relax, go enjoy myself. And all of that's perfectly okay. But mainly because of men not being initiated, and it's easier to have stuff pushed to you than to go do it, right? Go take action. That men don't even read anymore. We want to. I mean, we want everything on Audible. We want we can't even pick up a book and read. That's too much work. So I really see that we do have this issue with too many men are not out making a difference. And if it's as simple as a simple place to start is taking social media apps off your phone. They are on your phone to addict you to your phone, and they're also there to track you and steal your information. Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. I've said it before. Every now and then I'll say it again. I'd link Mark Zuckerberg up there with the two most evil men on the planet, him and Vladimir Putin. Now, there's a lot of other evil men, but they're the most visible. He has constantly paid billions of dollars of fines for violating agreements he's made not to do in terms of stealing people's data, paying little children to be able to get their data. He said he wouldn't do it. He did it, right? If Mark Zuckerberg was in jail, if he had criminal penalties for all the civil penalties his shareholders have paid, he'd be in jail for several lifetimes. When Apple changed their system on their phones to say now you have to opt into an app stealing your information and tracking you across all your other apps and knowing where you are and listening to you, you have to opt into that. Mark Zuckerberg took a full page out in the New York Times and accused Apple of hurting small business people, i.e. the people that sell ads to people who buy the data from Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook. Okay. So not only, are these things tracking us everywhere we go, the apps on your phone, they're feminizing you. How many likes do I have? How many Instagram models can I look at? How many swipe rights can I do? And how much work do you actually get done? How big of a dent do you put in the universe over here doing this on your phone all day long? So again, the video games, the social media, even the porn on the internet is not inherently evil. But when men just it would take that easy path because everything gets pushed to them, I think that's detrimental to men. And that's why I tell men, first place to start. If you can't get off social media, at least take the apps off your phone. Go to your desktop, go to your computer to actually play the video games, to be on social media. You can do your social media through browsers where you can't be tracked, and you're more likely to do it and be done rather than spending. I had to make a commitment myself. I won't take my phone to the bathroom anymore. Not because I'm afraid it's tracking me, but I thought when I go to the bathroom, I'm going to go have a moment of solitude with the door closed, leave the phone behind. The phone doesn't have to come with me. So I put my phone on airplane mode when I go to sleep at night. It does not come off airplane mode until I get back in the morning from taking the dog for a walk, right? I've done my meditation. I've done my writing. I've done my reading. I've walked the dog. Now I can come home. Phone can come off airplane mode. And then it's primarily related to work from there. So that's just a suggestion. I know most younger men, especially my son's age and younger, just grew up with constant bombardment of internet, social media, and it's a tough one to break. But again, if Mark Zuckerberg has his way, if Apple has their way, if Google has their way, we're all going to be wearing goggles, walking around in the virtual reality, i.e. the AI reality that they feed us in our life. We're not going to even be walking around seeing the real world through our own eyes. So.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, Robert, Dr. Glover, this has been great. We got you a little longer. It is Easter. It's Good Friday, so we should let you get
there we go. Good Friday
after work and unplug and out of it. This has been a great chat. Where can people find all of your stuff?
Well, drglover.com, drglover.com, and integration. There it is on the side. I'm mirrored on my video. I can't see what direction. IntegrationNation.net. For the men that want to know more about our men's program.
Awesome.
Gentlemen, thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is great. Have a good one and come back anytime. We'll have to do this again when you get your other stuff live, I'll see the email come through and I'll get
All
in
right.
touch.
Just get in touch. We'll do it again.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, man. Have a good one. And that was a chat with the one and only Dr. Robert Glover. What'd you think?
That was great. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
great. It's
Five
good
and
to
a half
touch
years
into
later.
that stuff from time to time, because I gotta marry all these chicks off eventually, and it'd be best if everyone wasn't a fucking retard. That's like my biggest thing right now is we're like, how are we gonna keep them out of cars with boys? That's like a conversation we're having. Is our biggest concern is not even the boys in general. It's like you're not driving in a car with a boy. That's like it's a real concern because it's at up to 25. I drove a car, man. I was a fucking idiot, especially if there was some chicks in there.
What do you mean? Like, but
When you're 17, 18, and you get some chicks.
Well, how long are you gonna not allow them to go in cars with boys?
Until they're 25.
No.
30?
Are you kidding me? Now we were driving right at 16. I mean, we couldn't wait to get our license.
They can drive.
They don't have to worry.
I'll get them a car. They can do the driving. I'll buy them. I'll probably buy them a truck. Something.
Are kids even driving these days? I mean, they don't seem.
My kids will be chomping at the bit. Plus, we live in the.
You kind of need to drive where you are.
We're rural, so yeah. What advice do you have for guys under 30, Graham?
Me?
Well, it's just a question in the chat. So
I mean, that's kind of like why. That's why I asked Glover about that. I think find meaning and purpose. I just don't really know what to say about that. I guess get physical, get active, wake up with the sunrise, watch the sunset, get rid of your social media apps. I don't know.
Read a lot of books. That's what I say. Read a lot of books. Read a lot of books. Or listen to. I mean, Audible's fine. I mean, we have an audiobook company, so we're not going to bitch out about audiobooks. But listen, I wouldn't be here living the dream and with all these stuff if it wasn't for books. That would be probably the number one thing that, other than hardship makes a big difference. But it was like books. Reading it first was like the Jordan Peterson 12 Rules for Life. You start reading that, and then Dr. Glover's book, and then that kind of gets you out of your rut. Those are kind of good ones to start with to get your shit together. Because if you don't get your shit together, there's no point in doing any Napoleon Hill or any of this other stuff, because you ain't manifest shit if you don't have your shit together. So
yeah, and then just to
get into that. And Atlas Shrugged mentioned there, that is another thing, is I think that a lot of fiction needs to be piled into that stuff, because fiction kind of gives you a
different view on the world, really.
Actually through other people's eyes, even if it's just the writer making that up, he still made it up, not you. So you can start to think, that character kind of feels the same as me. How did that happen? Oh.
Not only that, about geopolitical stuff too. Like a lot of the sci-fi writers and stuff, they have a really good sort of grasp on sort of geopolitics. So the other thing I was going to say is just on that question. I mean, like he was saying at the beginning, I don't know if you caught the whole thing, but men's groups, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with younger than 30 men getting into groups either, right? However, there's a whole bunch of examples of what he talks about. But I mean, maybe even his group, get into the online group.
Support the show. Grimerica.ca/support. That helps. Even join the chats. Listen, there's a bunch of people in the chats that have ended up like getting married or finding love. And if nothing else, it's definitely mostly a boys club in there. You can go in there, and if you're an idiot, we'll pick on you until you're not. So that's kind of like what boys do. Anyway, big thanks to Dr. Glover for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you are one of the few who do choose to support the work. That is the problem with giving all this shit out for free, is not very many choose to pay for it. But the ones who do, we love you for it. Grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly today, or make a one-time donation. If you guys want to head over to GrimericaOutlaw.ca, we got the podcast over there where we round up a bunch of news and do a bunch of Canadian stuff and news they don't want you to talk about, outlaw news, all that kind of stuff. And we also do interviews with more controversial. We got a little controversial at the end, but not really. We kind of just dipped our toes into it. We just live over there on Grimerica Outlawed. And if you like those audiobooks, like I was talking about a few minutes ago, adultbrain.ca for, I think, almost 120 audiobooks over there for now on the website. You can get them on Spotify, Audible, Podcast, YouTube, or any place you want to find your audiobooks. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Your mind's on fire, all the color red in a blue lagoon. In a storm in Bermuda, you've dive bombed into a seashell swoon. Maybe your easiest dreams make sweet perfume. While you're yawning, yet not breathing in a hospital room. Should I call for help? We are drowning in this ocean swell. Let's start from scratch. Quit living these lies and become unattached. The idea of some far-off future is the fuel for your worries. But for God's sakes, time is eternal. Please do not hurry. Please do not fret. Please act now in a way that doesn't lead to regret. Please stop smoking so many cigarettes, so profusely, so profusely. Should I call for help? We are drowning in this ocean swell. Let's start from scratch. Quit living these lies and become unattached. Shoo-be-doo-doo-doo.